further ado, I'll pass the baton on to Fred.
Well, thank you very much. It has been an extreme honor to be here, and I hear from the delegates that they have seldom if ever attended a conference this good, this interesting, and this productive. Some of you may wonder why I am not wearing a tie at this moment. I blame Salim al-Ishmael, who reminded me that I tend to give a Fraser Institute Adam Smith tie to our great friend, and I happen to have only one Adam Smith Fraser Institute tie with me, and it used to be around my neck. But what I'd like to do is to present it to our friend. This is a tradition that actually started with Salim al-Ishmael. I don't know if you remember, Salim, but the first time you attended the Fraser Institute meeting in Canada, I also took my tie off and handed it over. And I guess that's the same one. So this has been a fantastic meeting, and just to ask for a round of applause again for Mr. and the whole team. It's been spectacular. I'm going to very quickly do something that I said yesterday because there are new faces here, and also because I'm not sure how well I said it yesterday. I was jet-lagged from 2 red-eyed flights in a row, and that is that economic freedom is important not just for the economic gains, but also for the changes in the dynamics of a society. Without economic freedom, with the nation and the economy ruled by a crony capitalist or crony socialist elite, being part of the privileged group in power, whether it's an ethnic group, political group, religious group, being part of that group is all important. And that means that it divides people against people, sect against sect, political grouping against political grouping, because political power is not just a policy issue, it's an issue of getting a job, of getting an education, of supporting your family. And that fight for power creates divisions in a society that can become truly tragic, and it's actually something we've seen in the Arab world in parts of Asia and Latin America, and used to be true in this part of the world too, in Europe, with economic, and you get ahead by making other people worse off, by creating monopolies, by excluding others, by privileging your own group. And the change from a society where you get ahead by making other people worse off to a society where there is economic freedom and you get ahead by making other people better off, by producing goods and services that they voluntarily want to change. That is a huge change in the dynamics of the society and in the psychology of the society. So the work that Mr. Bashir is supporting here today is important for producing prosperity and growth and employment, but it is also important for deep societal and psychological reasons. Having taken up much of my introductory time, I'll move very quickly to these charts. This is the evolution of economic freedom of the 4 nations that we are looking at today, plus the world average. And that chart is actually going to give hope to some of our neighbors, Pakistan and Indonesia, because if you look at New Zealand in 1975, New Zealand was lower in economic freedom than Pakistan and Indonesia are today. New Zealand took off quickly, created huge prosperity for its people. So my hope is that with the support of, again, people like Mr. Bashir in this conference, that we could see such an amazing growth in economic freedom in both Pakistan and Indonesia. Next slide, please. This is Hong Kong's scores. Hong Kong is #1 in the world. Great scores, as you would guess. Next slide. And this shows their rank. As you can see, #1 in the world, 6 in size of government, 11 in rule of law. And rule of law is something I'm going to focus on. As was established yesterday, a country can, if it's difficult for a country to become rich with a big government, a country can remain rich with a big government, so long as it has rule of law and the other aspects of economic freedom. What worries me about Hong Kong, I'll be very interested to hear what Andrew said, is sometimes I think our friends there focus a little bit too much on fairly small increases in government spending, which may be ill-advised, but don't focus as much on the huge threats to the rule of law coming from the mainland, where Communist Party officials have repeatedly said, and a number of them have said, that the Communist Party, that the rule of law is subservient to the Communist Party. There have been continual, albeit small, batterings at the rule of law in Hong Kong already by the mainland, the deduction of booksellers, for instance. And I wonder if there's anything Hong Kong can do, or if it's just simply the case that the mainland is going to have its will, and that's it. Next slide, please. This is New Zealand. Again, exceptional scores like many advanced nations. New Zealand can afford a large government. It is likely too large, but, you know, next slide. But as you can see, it has a fairly low score in size of government, but is #3 in the world in legal structure. But if you remember the chart earlier, you will have seen a slight decline in economic freedom in New Zealand. So I'll ask our New Zealand participant if there's something to be worried about there. Next slide. Indonesia. Next slide. As you can see, Indonesia has fairly low scores in a number of areas. What particularly worries me about Indonesia is a very low score in the legal structure. No nation has ever become rich with a weak legal structure. And coincidentally, I'll be speaking at the Indonesian Oil and Gas Conference next month. And I must tell you, and be interested what the panelist has to say, a number of people are interested about the regulatory and legal and taxation confusions around that sector. Next session. This, of course, is very close to our host's heart. Next slide. And as you can see, Pakistan has a dismal performance in the rule of law. 145 out of 159 nations in the rule of law. And I hope our panelists will be able to address how to move forward in that area. Next slide. That's the end of the slide and the end of my remarks. So I'm afraid I don't know actually who goes first. So, well, shall we start with New Zealand then?
Okay. Well, as you can see from the slides, New Zealand is a very economically